So, you'd like to start turning this into this. And this. And that. Maybe even a little something like this. I'm Rob. This is Venturi Fab. And around here, we like doing cool things with tube on cool trucks and stuff. So, I've got my roll cage out of Merle to finish welding it all the way, and I've spent this last week buttoning up a bunch of stuff inside the truck that nobody cares enough to watch, right? Cleaning up wiring, filling old trim holes, sound deadening, all the boring crap that no one likes to watch. So this week I figured I'd talk about getting into doing tube work with you guys. So you don't need to spend $3,000 on a top-of-the-line welder to get really nice results with your tube bending. You just need a handful of tools and a mildly expensive bender. We're not going to go over like the Harbor Freight pipe kinker. I don't use that. I don't have any experience with it. But the tube bender that I did this cage with and all the stuff you saw at the beginning of the video with is very affordable and produces a really nice quality, and I really wouldn't want to start with much less than that. So if that's your kind of speed, stick around. We're going to cover the basics. If you like what you see, I'll link to the other tube project videos that I've got on my webpage at the end of this video, or you can just subscribe and go through my channel. You'll see them. They're pretty obvious. I do a lot of tube stuff on here, and let's get into it. We'll start with measuring. All right, so measuring tools, we're super basic, right? We got our little piece of tube here. You're going to need your tape measure. I prefer the ones that auto stay out, and then you hit the button to retract them. Lately, I've been using, I got these, they're KMC tools, and they're pipe layout tools, or tube layout tools. So this one you use for like marking center lines. I have another one that I have misplaced at the moment that slips over this. I've got a video about that also if you want to check that thing out. It's under my tool times. These things are super invaluable. Before I had these though, I strictly just did it all with tape to get nice straight cuts, because you can't just put a square around a tube, right, to get a nice straight line. But what you can do is kind of eyeball it to where it's straight. And if you use a whitish tape, it's not going to want to bend. So you just roll it around your tube, and that'll give you a nice straight cut line to follow. Just make sure that you make some sort of little mark like an arrow or something so that you know which side of the tape to cut on, because it's really easy to cut the wrong side of the line sometimes. The other two main ones that I use when you're setting stuff up with tubing, and especially once we get to the tube bender, is a digital angle finder. And then for setting stuff to level, I'm old. I always use just an old school magnetic protractor with the weight on the bottom. That doesn't rely on batteries. It will always read correctly. So let's get into cutting. You thought I was going to do something fancy, didn't you? For tube work, 99% of the cuts I do are with a good old-fashioned angle grinder. I don't have a chop saw anymore. Mine died, and I'm on the fence on if I want to get a big bandsaw or if I want to get like a cold cut chop saw. Haven't decided yet, but realistically, like I said, my whole roll cage, angle grinder. My front bumper, angle grinder. My sliders, angle grinder. My rear bumper, well, the start of my rear bumper, angle grinder. That's all you need for this. And also when we get into the section on coping tube, angle grinder. Well, we might as well go right into coping. So, when you're just starting out with your projects, like I say, you can hand cope with an angle grinder. I'm not going to get into the specifics of how to do that in this video. If you would like me to, let me know in the comments. I'll gladly do an entire video about coping with an angle grinder, but there's also already a ton of great videos on different people's techniques on how to do that by some other very skilled fabricators on YouTube already. So if you want my take on it, let me know. I'll do one. Otherwise, this isn't that video. If you're only going to do a couple of copes, right? Like maybe you're just going to be doing like some sliders, which are a fantastic early fabrication project. Especially if you want to start getting into using tube and things like that. They're simple, they turn out great, they're super great for learning how to weld on. It's not like some major safety thing like if you're welding together like a hitch or something like that. Worst case scenario, your sliders fail, you get a dent in your body. You know what I mean? They're a fantastic early fabrication project. And if you get a little ham-handed on them and weld the crap out of them, yeah, it's just extra material to slide on, right? Like it's going to be fine. So if you're just doing a couple copes, do them by hand, that's totally fine. If you're going to do a bunch, like a roll cage or my front bumper or something, get a hole notcher. These ones, this style, I don't care where you get it from. I'm pretty sure they're all made exactly the same, right? Whether you get the Harbor Freight one or the Vevor one or the Jegs one or whatever, the Speedway one, they're all pretty much the same. They're all made out of the same materials and all that. These are okay for probably like 75% of your stuff, right? You can do compound copes on it. I cover that in my roll cage videos because all these are compound copes. It's where you cope from one side and then you rotate it and do it the other way so that you can stuff a tube into a corner. You don't need to worry about doing that right out of the gate. These will work great for a lot of that stuff. They're not nearly as nice as like a $500 tubing notcher. But if you're just getting into this and you're only going to do like a couple little projects, or you're just kind of getting your feet wet and you don't want to make that giant investment, 80 bucks. And it will save you tons of time over hand coping everything. Because this, while it works great, it's very time consuming. So maybe you enjoy sitting there grinding for hours. I do not. So at least one of these, this will get you by for a while. This is the one that I used for all my stuff so far on my truck. Am I going to get a nicer tubing notcher? Abso-freaking-lutely, because there is a lot more tubing in our future, and I come up against the limitations of this one all the time as I build more and more complicated stuff. But for basic tubing structures, this thing is freaking money. So if you don't want to spend $3,000 for like a swag bender or a JD squared or something like that, this is a brand called Affordable Bender. It's like 400 bucks plus whatever the Harbor Freight 1210 jacks are on sale, like another 100, 120 bucks. I do recommend getting the air over hydraulic one though, because if you get just the regular hydraulic jack version, you got to sit there and hand crank this thing, and that would be horrible doing the whole thing. But this is how easy this thing is to use. So you'll mark the start of your bend. We're going to go over the templates and how to do that next. But how this thing functions, you'll have your start for your bend. That lines up, or at least the way I mark them is I line it up with this front edge here. Make sure your valve's tightened. Put your angle finder on it to get your bend degrees. You want to make sure that this is sitting level when you do this, when you're measuring it for your tube. And this is it. And then when you're done, that's 31.4 degrees, which when you release the pressure from this, it's going to do what's called spring back. So you're going to lose a little bit of your bend because the metal is going to try to spring back a little bit to its original shape. So realistically, 31.4 is probably a 30-degree bend when you're all said and done. But there you go. No kinks. Nice clean bend. Super repeatable. I absolutely love this thing. So, regardless of if you use an affordable style bender or a pipe kinker or a $3,000 swag off-road bender, what you're going to want to make are some template pieces. So what I do is I mark on them the start of my bend, and then I measure and I mark every inch all the way down, and then I'll bend these. I've got these in all different sizes. This one is 72 degrees. I label all of them. And you'll bend it, I would start with, bend to 45, bend to 22.5, bend like your common use angles. And you use these as a template when you watch some of my other bending projects here, like building this bumper and the roll cage and stuff. I use these constantly, and I bend special ones all the time to nail specific bends, because it's a lot cheaper to use, 1.5 feet, 2 feet of material to test out a bend, and then you can hold it up and see, like, hey, this is perfect for that. I know this is going to work. And then you're not wasting big giant sticks of tube. You know exactly what angle you need to bend the tube to fit where you want it. And then with your start line marked, you can mark that on the tube so you know exactly where to start your bend, so that your tube ends up exactly where you want it to be. Well, there you have it. That's pretty much a crash course in getting started with tube. Tube's one of those things, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? And the only way that you're going to learn is to dive in with both feet and give it a shot and figure it out, because everyone's kind of going to have, you got a little bit different way of looking at it. Like, the way that I mark stuff might not be the way that you naturally mark stuff. You just get some low stake stuff, accept that you're going to burn through a couple sticks of tube. That's fine, dude. That's part of the learning process. I don't even want to talk about how much tube I wasted building Merle, man. But I'm also a perfectionist, so there's that. So that's the basics into it. If you have any other questions about it, if you want anything specific, feel free to hit me up. I'm on here. I got Instagram, and we got a Venturi Fab Facebook and all that good stuff. I'm over there. Reach out to me however you want. Ask whatever questions you need. I'd love to help you guys out, making your trucks super, super rad like Merle here. And if you're into that, you found it helpful, stick around, because that roll cage we were looking at behind me in the garage is going back into this truck this weekend as soon as I'm done buttoning up all my little stuff in there that I can get to while there's no cage in the way. Make my life a lot easier. So we are just about to be wheeling him. So stick around. I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, if you don't get started learning new skills, trying new things, developing and growing as a builder and a fabricator, you'll never get finished.